This video was created by VinylicPuma of VinylicPumaGaming.
Hey guys, welcome back to another subscriber Q&A. It's been about 3 months since I did the last Q&A, and I figured it might be a good idea to do another one. A couple things before we get into this video. I'd like to thank everyone that liked the Borderlands 1 countdown I did on Atlas weapons. I am stunned at how well that video did, and in case you are curious, I will be making more Borderlands 1 videos. I can't say exactly when, but I've got a rough idea of what I would like to do next. The other thing I want to talk about really quickly is Fallout videos. I think I'm going to make some more theory videos, as you guys seem to like those. You guys really liked the Enclave theory video, as well as the Which Ending is Canon video. I think I'll continue to do countdowns for Fallout, but I think I'd rather do it on less arbitrary stuff like top 8 drinks or top 8 drugs or stuff like that. I did like making the Why No PS4 mods and the Nuka World Might Not Be the Last DLC countdowns, and I think the good thing is that you guys like those as well. As always, whether it's Borderlands, Fallout, or anything else, feel free to leave a comment as to some suggestions for future videos. Otherwise, let's go ahead and we'll start answering some questions. Our first question comes from Ben Rogenkamp, and he asks, "Hey Puma, if you typically play on PC, why do you use a controller instead of a mouse and keyboard?" It usually depends on the game, and it also depends on what platform I originally learned to play the game. I originally learned to play Borderlands with the controller on Xbox 360, and while mouse and keyboard is better, after all you do get a drop key, I still prefer using a controller with that game. I feel the same way about Fallout, the Elder Scrolls games, and Dark Souls when I play those. That said, if I was going to play something like Titanfall 2, Call of Duty, or Battlefield 1 on the PC, I would definitely use a mouse and keyboard. Back when I was making videos on the new Doom game that came out earlier this year, I learned that game on mouse and keyboard exclusively. When I first got my PC, I also bought Dishonored at the time, and I learned that game on a mouse and keyboard, and I actually have a lot of difficulty trying to play with a controller, and that of course is for Dishonored. Ultimately, it just depends. Our next question comes from Bossatron, and he asks, "Do you think Atlas will be in Borderlands 3? I think there's definitely a possibility that Atlas will be in Borderlands 3, at least in some capacity. For those of you that have played Tales from the Borderlands, you'll know that Atlas plays a major part in that game's plot. I won't really spoil it for you if you haven't played it yet. Now, in general, I'd like to see the more tactical look of weapons return from Borderlands 1, both from Atlas and other manufacturers. Some of the weapon models from Borderlands 1 look a lot better, in my opinion, than some of the weapon models we ultimately got from Borderlands 2, especially with the shotguns and the combat rifles. I also hope that assault rifles are improved in Borderlands 3 as well, because they're shit in Borderlands 2. Our next question comes from Enderborn, and he asks, "Who is your favorite DLC character in each game?" And he's talking about Borderlands. For Borderlands 2, I prefer Gage over Krieg. While Krieg is probably better thanks to the fact that you can play him without weapons and items, I like Gage's Death Trap and her Anarchy Stack mechanics. Plus, Gage has other skills like Blood-Soaked Shields, Close Enough, and those are really decent skills. Something I've found with all Borderlands games too is that I generally tend to prefer characters that get boosts to their movement speed, hence why I like Axton, Gage, Wilhelm, and even Lilith from the first game. Now for the pre-sequel, I definitely prefer Jack over Aurelia. Aurelia isn't bad by any means, as she starts out with much better gear, but Jack gets really powerful once you get his leadership skill. And what this does is it keeps his kill skills up all of the time. And really, I would say Jack from the pre-sequel is the perfect combination of both Axton and Gage. All of their strengths, none of their weaknesses. If only I could play Handsome Jack in Borderlands 2. That'd be pretty sick. Our next question is going to be a name that I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of, and that is Kel K. Fo Rodriguez, and he asks, "Do you think there is enough guns in Fallout 4? Now, there might be enough, but I do wish there were some more, especially since we've seen a lot of cool weapons from the previous games. For example, where is Fallout 3's regular and Chinese assault rifle, and where are half of the guns that were introduced in Fallout New Vegas. Now, while Fallout New Vegas isn't my favorite game in the franchise, the one thing I do really like about that game was the amount and variety of weapons that you had. I think if like Fallout 3 and 4 have like 4 to 5 rifles, New Vegas seems like it has like 10 or more. And, you know, why is it that the Deliverer from Fallout 4 is one of the only unique weapons with its own unique gun model? Really, and I guess they've been getting better with that on DLC. I mean, the Adam's Judgment comes to mind, but really, I would have liked to have seen more interesting weapons in Fallout DLC and really Fallout Vanilla as well. Our next question comes from Romulo Chagas, and he asks, what's your favorite Fallout 4 companion? I think of all of the companions, I think Piper's probably my favorite, but that's probably because I think there was a lot of effort put into NPCs like her and Nick Valentine, who I also really like. Now, I do think it's a shame that NPCs and companions like X688 weren't fleshed out more, as I kind of like him. It would have been interesting if you could get him to join the Railroad and turn his back on the Institute, and that would have been more RPG elements that I think a lot of people might have wanted. Or if you could get like Dance to turn on the Brotherhood and join the Institute after learning that he was in fact a synth, that would have been pretty sick. Now, I think my least favorite companion in the game is Strong, but that's mostly because I haven't sat down and made a cannibal-style character yet and kind of traveled throughout the game with him yet. Our next question comes from Raul the Panda, and he asks, which console do you play on? Now, obviously, primarily I play on PC, though I did recently pick up an Xbox One. I was originally going to buy the Xbox One S that literally came out 2 days ago or whatever it is now, but ultimately I decided on the original Xbox One because I'd rather save the extra $150 or so and put it towards Project Scorpio that's supposed to come out sometime next year. And the other reason I bought an Xbox One to play some of the exclusives is because I don't want Windows 10 on my PC. Really, for the most part, I'm just waiting on the upgraded PS4 Neo and the upgraded Project Scorpio. And I figured in the meantime, I'd pick up an Xbox One because that's actually going to get into our next question here. So Kobe Block asks, is this Q&A any question? If so, what E3 games are you most excited about? So, of course, like I was saying earlier, I did buy an Xbox One, and the main reason I bought an Xbox One was because I wanted to play ReCore, and I don't want to put Windows 10 on my PC. Plus, I've been noticing over the last couple of years that we've been getting a lot of multiplats on PC, but there are still some games that aren't coming out on PC, like Destiny, Final Fantasy 15 may not get a PC release, or we're getting like extremely late PC versions or ports like we did with Grand Theft Auto 5. Metroid Prime is one of my favorite games on the GameCube, and apparently key developers that worked on that game work at Armature Studios. And at the same time, though, I am sort of worried about ReCore, because while I've heard Armature Studios did a good job with the Borderlands Handsome Collection ports to the next-gen consoles, Keiji Inafune is involved with ReCore's development, and I've heard that Mighty Number 9 was the fucking train wreck. Otherwise, I ultimately want to play Final Fantasy 15. It's been hyped up for years now. Hopefully it's good. Our next question comes from Guz, the real life Tenno, and he asks, how many hours of playtime do you have on all 3 Borderlands games in total? Now, according to Steam, I have 33 hours on Borderlands 1, 666 hours in Borderlands 2, that's weird, and 590 hours in Borderlands the pre-sequel. This actually is probably higher because I imported a lot of my character saves from Xbox 360, and to give you some idea on the Xbox 360 version, my Commando alone, as of like today or the time I'm making this video, has 18 days of playtime, which brings him to 432 hours. And of course, that's not including what I've also accrued on PC just playing my Commando. So, I mean, obviously, guys, I've easily got like 1,500 hours between all 3 games, though I have played Borderlands 1 significantly less, but Holy shit, I have no life. Our next question comes from Hobbs Good, and he asks, who's your favorite NPC in Borderlands? So I really like Hammerlock from Borderlands 2, and I also sort of like Captain Scarlet as well. I thought she was pretty interesting, and it was a shame that she didn't get really used more in any future content for Borderlands 2. Otherwise, I do like a lot of other player favorites like Claptrap and Tiny Tina. I don't think I have a specific NPC that I don't like. Maybe some of the Borderlands 1 NPCs, but that's mostly just because they aren't voice acted like they are in Borderlands 2, and that's just arbitrary. If Gearbox is out there and they are watching this video somehow, if you guys ever decide to remake Borderlands 1, please have voice acting for all of the NPCs instead of just readable text. Our next question comes from Operational Scrub, and he asks, what faction would you choose in real life if the story happened to you? And he's talking about Fallout 4. I think I would probably pick the Brotherhood if I was just dumped out into the world. They are the most technologically advanced, and it would be the safest option available to me, I'm thinking. At the same time, I don't really think I would gel with their protocol. If I were to follow the exact same story as the sole survivor, I might actually end up with the Institute. It's hard to say, as I don't really feel any emotional connection to Father or anything. But in terms of principles, though, I do like the Minutemen's ideas to essentially rebuild the Commonwealth and killing all of the shitty raiders that are killing everybody. Fuck raiders. And fuck Deathclaws. Of all four choices, though, the Railroad would probably be my last choice. They seem like they would be all right people, but I don't think I would want to join them. Our next question is a long one, and it comes from Mbargus101, and he asks, do you consider yourself a part of the Fallout community? How do you feel about the current trend of the community, which seems to be 1, fuck Fallout 4 and its DLC, 2, New Vegas is the best game ever, and 3, Fallout 3 is garbage? I guess I'd consider myself to be a part of the Fallout community. I don't know, if that just is me liking the game, I'd say that qualifies. But I do think I disagree with some of the positions you listed. I think Fallout 4 as a game in the franchise is a good game. I do wish Bethesda had left some of the more RPG style elements in the game, like the special stat speech checks and other things. And I will say that while I'm not a fan of the settlement building system, I think if it was implemented a lot better, I'd probably like it a little bit more. As for the DLCs, I do agree that they are significantly lower quality and are less interesting than what we got in Fallout 3 and even Fallout New Vegas with Old World Blues. Far Harbor was good, but really, I prefer some of the older DLCs we had. And, I actually didn't like New Vegas as much as Fallout 3, and I think that might be because Fallout 3 is an easier game than New Vegas is. I don't know, man. Cazadors and Deathclaws in particular really made me hate New Vegas. I also didn't like the fact that I couldn't continue playing after I completed the final mission, where you can do that in Fallout 3. Then again, I did play the Game of the Year edition for Fallout 3, and the original ending for Fallout 3 was, or so I've heard, is shit. Now, don't take that the wrong way. New Vegas is by no means a bad game. Veronica is one of my favorite companions from the franchise, and I also like the huge amount of weapon variety, and I like the idea to transition to that faction system as opposed to the primarily karma-based system from Fallout 3. In my opinion, it's a little more realistic. Our final question comes from Ozzy Plays, and he asks, what game sequel do you want to see made? Well, I guess the obvious ones are Borderlands 3 and another Fallout game. Speaking of Fallout, I'd like to see an Origins game that involves the formation of the Brotherhood of Steel. Maybe you can play as Captain Roger Maxson as opposed to a Vault Dweller, and you can experience the bombs dropping, sort of like we did in Fallout 4. For games that I don't cover on this channel, I'd like to see another Halo game that's like Halo Reach. I actually picked up Halo Reach recently, and I've been playing while videos render for my channel, and of all of the Halo campaigns that I've played, which don't include Halo 4 or 5, I think I've enjoyed Reach's campaign the most. For a game that you haven't heard of, I'd like to see a sequel to an old RTS game that I used to play called Tsar Burden of the Crown. Tsar is essentially an RTS where your individual units can level up and become stronger, sort of like they do in an RPG, and really I think it was a cool and neat idea, but I guess at the time Tsar was just overshadowed by games games like Age of Empires or StarCraft, which sucks, but it is what it is. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the Q&A. If you like this Q&A, please be sure to leave a like, and as always, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.